Hello.
Aloha.
Guten Tag.
Ni hao.
Bonjour.
Hola. Bienvenidos amigos de Disney. Sorry.
Welcome, friends of Disney.
Sorry for the weird intro and saying hello in a bunch of different languages, but today we're in for a very special treat.
Aruna's Magic.
Yes, we're starting a second TV show concurrently with Sweet Life. That is an international show that's a Disney Plus original called Aruna's Magic.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Is this your first international Disney TV show you've watched on Disney Plus?
Disney specifically?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is my second.
Okay, shut up.
I'll need to tell you about the other, because the other one they actually speak over the language, so they translate it to English and have English speakers.
Okay. No, so Aruna's Magic is the show we're talking about today, and
in case you can't tell, they don't speak English in this show.
they do not. It is
Portuguese.
yes, primarily Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese to be specific.
At least that's what the Disney subtitles told us.
Yes, that is what the Disney subtitles told us.
Okay, so what vibe did this give you?
I don't know what vibe. It was very hard because I'm looking at this movie or this TV show cinematically like I would an American TV show, and the way this episode, for being in first episode, was structured and how they're introducing all these different aspects of this world was not how I would have expected an American TV show to do that.
So, when I first started watching this, I knew exactly what I was looking at. Anyone who watches The Vampire Diaries, I feel like you're gonna get me because it's like season 2 of Vampire Diaries. It is Hocus Pocus mixed with Vampire Diaries. That is
As soon as you said Hocus Pocus, I got it.
because the beginning scene, okay.
Okay.
So
to give you guys a framework of this first episode of Aruna's Magic, we are introduced into, obviously, a world where there's magic, and this takes place in Rio de Janeiro. Rio!
Oh, God. Oh.
And in this time period where there are witches, and like any tale about witches that starts off in the older times, there's a witch hunt going on, people are trying to get rid of magic and everything, and there's these 3 witches that we see, and they come together and they basically say we have to preserve the magic until sometime.
Do a Sanderson sister type of thing.
Not quite, because remember the Sanderson sisters were they were like burned alive, I think.
Yeah.
And they
that's why I was
like the black candle, the black flame candle, and everything. This, they literally used their magic and turned themselves into a giant tree. And from there, we fast forward to modern times.
And we're introduced to this new character, Mima. Mima. And her friend,
Yeah.
and her friend Ariel, who's a guy, not a girl.
Ariel.
Okay, well,
Ariel is the Little Mermaid. Ariel is the...
For the sake of reading the subtitles, he is Ariel to me. Yes, Queen, I'm the mermaid. Okay, that's who he is.
Okay, but his name in the language is Ariel.
I said it's a love romance growing between these two, though, maybe.
Why can't they just be best friends? Okay, not everything between a guy and a girl is romance.
Sorry, I'm a little love-stricken lately. We got another Mr. Chef update, by the way. We went on a date. He invited me to a hockey game, and
Anyways,
Slightly awkward for me, just because some people I used to work with there were also with us, which was fine. We had great conversations.
there was a TED moment. Check out the Ice Princess episode if you want to know about TED moments.
Yeah,
Anyways.
Mr. Chef was 10. He also kissed me, so we're excited.
Okay.
But besides that, we're done with Mr. Chef now. Back to the episode.
Really quick, before we hit up modern time Rio, with those three witches turning themselves into a tree, okay, I don't know how right the translation was. This is where it gets a little touchy, trying to make sense of the lore. I had to Google some stuff to get a better grasp of what was happening. But basically, when they turned themselves into a tree and everything, this thing called a penumbra, that was the word, right? Penumbra.
I think so.
Where it was basically like there's a lot less sunlight in the day now. So this is like multiverse of, like, it doesn't keep track with modern times. It's alternate universe Rio, where the sun literally will like go away, and they have like these sun lamps to help give them like the sunlight or whatever, because of these three witches turning themselves into a tree and magic and that stuff. And so in these modern times, Mima is, I don't know, like, this is where things get really weird with this show.
So Mira, like, she's reading this book because her friend Me believes that these witches, there's descendants in,
And that they're real.
yeah, and then she kind of goes about her day and she's talking to her parents, and then all of a sudden it's like drugs, like. That's the only best way I can describe. It's not actually drugs though, but like she can read people's thoughts, and then things get really fuzzy for her, and she's like breathing heavily, and you're like kind of seeing through her lens, and that's why I say drugs, because
it's trippy.
yeah, it's like looking at this trippy vision thing, and she's like staring at someone, and then like she's listening to what they are thinking in their head about her.
Yeah, think of, like, in terms of the imagery, think of it like kaleidoscope. I think it's a good.
Yeah. Or like floaters.
Hold on a second. Yeah, like, if you've seen the episode of Wizards of Waverly Place, where there's this kaleidoscope that Max gets from Uncle Kelbo called an emotoscope, where he can look through it, see what they're presenting in person, but also see what they're feeling like on the inside.
Oh god, that's a great representation.
Like that's literally what it is.
Except it's like intense for her.
It's very intense.
Like she starts breathing heavily. She can't
passes out, gets sick. Like, it is intense, which obviously leads to this person's magic somehow. And
she also has like gold in her hair.
She has gold in her hair that they're trying to like cover up.
At first, I thought they were putting the gold into her hair.
Right? Well, and this is where things get weird, because, like, people are like, wait, I don't believe in witchcraft stuff, but it's very clear that in this society of Rio, that there definitely is a belief of the descendants of those people and things surrounding the culture because of, like, the decreased sunlight and those things, and there's a lot of discrimination against people that are considered to be descendants of these witches in their bloodlines.
So there is one part I got kind of confused. Maybe help out with this. After this, we then reach the part where they're at lunch.
Yes.
And there's this kid who is probably low income, but all he has for lunch is an apple, and a bully comes over, takes the apple from him, and it's just like, well, you need to take your glove off if you want to have the apple. And he had a mark on his hand. So I
think with that, because when we transfer to Mima reading out of that book from Ariel, they said like each person
has a mark.
Descendants was marked.
Yeah.
And I think that glove was the equivalent of the gold in her hair.
Yeah.
for
I was
this
like, is he a
person.
descendant? Because that's what
I
I was
think
kind of.
that's what they were. That's exactly what it was.
Okay, I was like, because that's what I was alluding was that he was a descendant, but I was just like, I need some clarification.
And there's really weird things with the descendants and their ability to live. Like it cuts to. It was really weird. It took me a while to figure this out. We cut to these group of people that were similar to this one kid at lunch and how they were dressed and everything. And it's very clear that they were descendants, 100% descendants of a bloodline regarding the witches. And we learned that there was 4 bloodlines. There was the herbs bloodline.
Oh yes, the herbs, the minerals, the water,
and then the heart.
Yes.
Which
this scene was kind of weird because they're traveling.
They're
traveling descendants.
They're traveling somewhere specifically.
Yeah, I think they're trying to find. Like what I was getting from it was that they were trying to find Mima and maybe this other kid.
I think they were trying to find that tree.
Oh yeah, that's a good point too.
Again, it took a lot to piece together the lore, but to better explain,
this is also only the first episode, and this is probably not going to be explained until episode 10.
Probably.
So we're piecing together what
the
they're
way they structured this episode was really weird, and we were obviously watching through translation because there was no English dubbing with it, so we only saw English translated subtitles, which can only go so far. But basically, the magic in this world was given to them. Aruna's, it's a task called Aruna's magic, and Aruna comes from a male name called Arun, which refers to daylight. So it's the magic of sunlight. And basically, from that magic, there was 4 primary bloodlines, and the witches we saw were like guardian witches almost. Like they were like top tier witches, and there was some alluding to like there was originally 4, but then they alluded that 1 died, so there was the 3 we saw, which when pieced together, one's for each bloodline, and the one was killed, and you see that one of the people in the witch hunt said the gold-haired one was killed. Only 3 are left. And so that pieced together, they turned themselves into a tree to protect the magic of Aruna. Mima, having the gold hair, alluded to her being part of that bloodline and everything. And these descendants exist and are obviously persecuted. There was a showing in the show that someone who had, it's called like wormwort or something like that.
So
it was some kind of herb of some kind, and that is associated with the descendants. The group of traveling descendants that we saw said they only had enough to last them a month and everything. So yeah, it's very complicated, and you gotta piece it together unless you're able to understand.
There's also a side plot of like.
So this whole thing comes into, and we see this a lot in modern day too, of science versus mythology and religion.
Yeah.
/ witchcraft.
The real question though I had on this was like, because at the beginning it pieced like it was like an entry into college.
I think it is. So.
But when you look at it, it's kind of like a mathletes thing.
So the two. So there's this elite thing. They called it.
It had a P in it. It was like
patron.
Yeah.
It was like young patron or whatever, which to me is like a young achiever type of person.
Yeah.
Like, someone really scholarly, honor society type of person, and maybe if anyone knows more anything, please put this in comments. I'd love to learn more about this, trying to make sense of this show.
Also, please comment. No comments recently.
No, none. Please give us comments.
Please.
We'd love to talk with you guys and obviously learn to grow. So, but anyways, they had this like young achievers, honor society thing, and Mima's parents are like pushing her to do it. And Mima's obviously a very heartfelt person. She wants to make people happy and everything, and so she goes through with it. And it isn't explained well, so I don't know if this is a cultural thing and they just assume you know what they're talking about, or it was just.
It seemed like you also had to like get accepted into it, like being smart enough
So-
to get into it.
So Mima signs up for it. They have this like class where there's this tutor that's explaining it. So basically, it's like a national think of it like an academic /National Honor Society on drugs.
I love these drugs.
on steroids. But
I was like, I love the drug references. Okay, it's covered.
But basically, she described it like every high school will like nominate their like people.
Top 10.
Well, no, like they're like top.
Yeah.
So you get like your top male and your top female, and then they end up competing to be like this the young patron basically, and it's supposed to be like elite of this group of people of like cream of the crop, top of the above a high school, like it's almost like on a school district level.
They have the 4.0.
They have the 5.0 according to this, and obviously we look at colleges, and like there's some stuff about like representation on like local or higher levels of government involvement.
This girl is really smart in science, by the way. Because Mima was given like the task.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, they had this thing where they were talking about like the first challenge is like a debate basically.
Yeah.
And
Her opponent was given photosynthesis, and she was given like
something to do with the sun.
yeah, and it involved part of photosynthesis, and it was like solar.
I can't remember.
It was but it was like solar something.
It was something, and I'm assuming it has to do with how they're having to live with the. I can't remember that P word.
The patron.
Penumbra. The penumbra, like using like the sunlight, the solar lights, and everything when you can't, when there is no sunlight. And when I say no sunlight, I mean you visibly see the screen turn gray. Like it goes grayscale.
Yeah.
It,
I got really confused by that for a minute.
mm-hmm. Like it was a lot to figure out this show. But
There's a lot of confusion on top of just having to figure out English.
yeah. But overall, like, and then at the end of towards the end, like again, there's this debate and between her and his classmate that had to do with most of. He's just a jerk. I don't like. I really don't get it. He's just a jerk.
Yeah, he's jock.
Yeah, he's the jock, jerk head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerk face. And they're having to do an actual debate, and the topic is old customs. Mima has to defend. Jerkhead has to obviously oppose, and
She has one of her like magic vision thingies, and it made her really sick that she threw up.
sick, self-conscious. She had the gold in her hair. People were starting to suspect that she was a descendant, which obviously there's a lot of prejudice against descendants. And so she ends up running away to the big tree, of course, because that's in it was in Rio. This doesn't leave Rio.
I was like, do you think she meant to like go to the big tree?
She was at the tree earlier with Ario.
Yeah.
So it's literally like the local park.
Yeah.
It looks like, and no one realizes the tree's the tree.
I didn't know the tree was the tree for a hot minute until
I recognize it immediately.
there goes me. I didn't realize it until the end when it started glowing, and I was like, ooh, the pretty colors.
Also, I feel like a terrible husband. Obviously, Megan's not with us.
We kind of discussed about this beforehand, but we're like, are we putting up picture of it?
Yeah, we talked about Megan not being here for this episode before we even hit record.
Megan,
Megan's just not with us.
we love you.
He's just not feeling good. Not going to be part of this episode.
Honestly, I think she might have been super confused.
She benefited on this one a little bit.
She would have been more confused than
Yeah.
me.
But yeah, so she had another acid trip during the debate and threw up.
I love these references.
Goddess of shrooms, right?
The goddess of shrew.
If you're wondering why we're bringing Goddess of Shrooms, check out the Hercules episode. It's a long story, but please check out the Hercules episode.
If the strays of Demeter made a kid, the goddess of shrew.
But anyways, so she so she goes to this park. Ariel's texting her, hey, like, where are you at? You got this. Come back. You'll do great things.
Oh, yeah. Like, he was annoyingly texting her.
Yes. But supportively. So I agree with this.
But he was just like, I know you're upset. And she's just like...
And she's, like, as she's, like she's sending a voice back, like, I don't think I can do this and everything. And this is, like, at the tail end of the episode, and all we see is that there's, like, this tree is starting to glow.
Yeah.
And I mean glow. Like,
you
can't miss this.
It is the Tree of Souls, okay? Except the trunk is also glowing.
I was going to say it's like a beacon in Minecraft.
No, it is Tree of Souls. We are going Avatar reference on this.
Are you talking Blue People Avatar?
Blue People
Okay, that explains it. I'm like, when the hell in Avatar Los Angeles was there a Tree of Souls?
The Blue People! I love the Blue People!
I haven't really watched the Blue People. But, anyways.
We need to do that for an episode because I will be all about it.
But anyways, so that's the premise of this show. Again, like, obviously, like, we were very scattered talking about it because it's really hard for us to figure out due to a lot of translation errors and probably a lot of cultural references.
Also, given the fact, okay, so this isn't my first international Disney original I have watched. The first one I watched is Intertwined. They do the same thing.
Oh wait, this actually isn't my first. This isn't my first international Disney TV show, but it's my first non-English international Disney TV show. Because there's another show called The Lodge, which I can't remember if it's UK based or Australian based. But one of those two accents. Those two accents can be very similar.
We need to watch Intertwined though because it's another Spanish film, but they actually dub it in English.
If they want to add an English dub to this show, I'll greatly appreciate it. Like, it's hard to do a good dub, but like, it's just hard when you don't have a lot of, like, it's already one thing not having the cultural references of Rio and the culture down there. It's another layer when you don't have the language translated necessarily in a way you understand. Like, I'm still not fully sure if the young patron thing is what it actually meant. Like, that does not sound right to me.
I was like, I loved the concept of like reading it, of like, because I'm a fantasy girly. I love fantasy.
Yes, same.
Fantasy is so good.
Hufflepuff.
Oh, I'm a Ravenclaw.
I know you are, but
but I love fantasy, and so obviously this is something that intrigued us, and Intertwined is also kind of fantasy, so we need to watch that.
What were your thoughts on the effects of the show? Like, magic in TV shows is always really touchy because of the effects. You can either look really good, like Harry Potter, or you can look really cringy, like Season 1 of Wizards of Waverly Place.
This really gave me Vampire Diaries aesthetics, except for the glowing trees.
Okay, but what about the part where they made the tree? Like, that was really
Hocus Pocus 5.
Okay, but not like I'm asking you to comment on the effects.
This is where it related to Vampire Diaries. They're not bad. They're definitely budgeted.
Yeah, you can tell it's obviously CGI.
Yeah, but it's not.
No.
It's not Wizards of Waverly Place first episode. Was their first spell?
No, it wasn't. Actually, wait. Yes, it was. It's
Jesus.
Edge bottle.
I can't English today.
Me no English.
This is why he said the opening in Spanish. I was like,
So,
I can do German.
I took Spanish in high school. I remember a lot on the pronunciations. So I can read Spanish. I can't necessarily understand what I'm reading, but I can say it.
I also took Spanish, but I can't. I can do German just fine. We're doing okay with that,
But
yeah, it's not horrible. I think it was fine. It didn't make me cringe.
what are your thoughts on? I feel like the witch and witch hunt storyline. It always feels a little on the overdone side, like the witch versus humans side of like mortal side of it. Like you see that in Harry Potter.
Well, this one there's like a witch versus evil entity that we still have yet to find out.
What evil entity?
At the beginning of when they were introducing the witches, there was like these evil entities.
The red people?
Yeah.
You mean the people that were the humans that were doing the witch hunt?
Yeah. Oh god, I just saw evil and okay.
There's this constant. I don't know how I feel about this constant trope being used for stories pertaining to magical things. Of you have wizarding stuff, magic stuff, but you have to keep it separate from the humans because humans suck and try to kill the magic people, even though the magic people are just fine. Like it was the premise of Halloween Town, Wizards of Waverly Place, Harry Potter, this show, Once Upon a Time. Like it's so constantly done, and I know like it's an easy story to tell, and it always makes sense.
Man, I watch a lot of fantasy besides what's on Disney. And so like I watch more outside of Disney, when it comes to fantasy, I actually prefer more adult fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not like explicit, not that type of fantasy. Okay, that's I gotta make that clear. Like when I'm talking about adult fantasy, it's R-rated because there's gore going on.
Like so, you're more into like maybe like the supernatural side of fantasy, kind of.
Like most of the time it involves witches, vampires, and humans just gotta live in whatever world.
It's always vampires, I swear to God.
Sometimes it's not, sometimes there's werewolves. It depends. Sometimes there's aliens. Like it really depends. But like humans are just coexisting in whatever world they choose to be in. And then these creatures are in their own world within the humans, and they're just like, sorry, we got our own thing going on. Humans don't matter to us. We have our own drama here.
Two things. One, did you really all basically point at Zombies 3? Werewolves, zombies,
No.
aliens.
Not on purpose. No, I was not even thinking about Zombies 3.
But like, you see what I mean? Like, the supernatural versus the human is always done. Always done.
It's like, I guess I'm like just thinking
Hotel Transylvania. Zombies. 1, 2, and 3.
I was like, I also watch a lot more like vampire. I just love the story plots of the adult vampire selection because it's like Vampire Academy, and well, humans, they just come here, sign an NDA, and they are the blood bank. Mm-hmm. And then, they use whatever power, they go home, they forget that it even happened, but they had a great time. So that's kind of like how humans play in what I watch. It's just like there's the realm of vampires and things like that. Humans cite a non-disclosure agreement. They know that they exist, whatever. They have their own little shindig going on of battles and against clans and things like that. And
it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know what other story you could build that wasn't one about humans versus the supernatural. But like, it's just it's an abused trope. It really is. It's used and abused, especially for younger audiences. Which I won't lie. I will not lie. It feels backwards from a lot of media, considering this country and a lot of the world is a very Christocentric world. You know, it's a very Christian, like focused more on like Christian ideologies and things like that. I say ideologies just to be inclusive, okay?
Yeah. Also, have you seen like the recent TikTok trend?
Hmm.
Well, it's not like a TikTok trend, but it's like a TikTok idea. So this popped up on my TikTok feed, and it kind of falls around this. This person preaches Christianity, and obviously we have a solar eclipse coming up, right?
Yeah.
And so he points out in the episode, and he's like, this is why Christians are so concerned about the solar eclipse. He shows the beginning and the end. So alpha and whatever the last letter is. Or in you actually took clap.
What are you talking about?
Okay, so do you know the Hebrew words for the beginning and the end?
The actual Hebrew words?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, well, anyways, he brings those up. I was thinking of the Greek words, which is alpha and
I don't think Omega's at the end.
omega's at the end either, which is why I was like, I don't know.
It's weird that it's always alpha and omega, but
Yeah, but there's different symbols for the beginning and the end in the Hebrew language. One of them is an X, which we've already had a solar eclipse go in the X. Okay? The other one goes in a curve like this around the earth. And with the X that has already formed and how this sign occurs, it's going to show the last symbol of the end. And so he's like, God is the beginning, God is the end, and it's making this pattern on earth. And he then talks about like in the book of Revelations, of course, always
I have a frustration with the Book of Revelation. I took a class on the Book of Revelation, and that felt like an acid trip.
yeah, it's always the book of Revelations, and I'm just like, and of course we both went to the same college, and we goddamn worldview, but I'm listening to this guy talk, and I'm just like, God has his own plan, and we're not to be taking the words from the book of Revelations to a T.
It's true. It's very true, but especially the beginnings. Like a lot of people point at the beginnings, and there's a lot more context needed, especially when you're looking at like these letters to these different churches and what was going on with these churches at these times. Like there's a lot of stuff packed into the Book of Revelation as an apocalyptic literature that is insane.
And then he's also just like, the world is going to end in like roughly 2,000 years. And he's like, 2,000 years. And he's like, guess what year it is? 2024. And I'm like, the earth has been around for so much longer than that. And God has existed long, long before.
But anyways, but back to what I was saying, like America as a whole, has a very Christocentric belief system. A lot of people refuse to believe it. It's obvious. And no one's stupid for saying this. God is supernatural. Everything we think of as supernatural, that does include God, the abilities that he has.
I was like, also people, I don't need to think I'm bashing on Christianity. I'm not. I do believe in God, but I just, yeah, how this guy was phrasing TikTok and what we're kind of referencing to, it's just, he's mentioning it in the fact of like this supernatural thing because of the solar eclipse. God's gonna strike down from heaven, and the clouds are going to separate because of the solar eclipse, and there's going to be fire and blood.
But
who knows?
But since God is a supernatural entity, I'm sorry, God is a supernatural entity because it is not what is normal here. It is, God does have magic. He has his own powers, things like that. It's weird that we have so much media defending humans against supernatural entities when God himself is a supernatural entity.
I'm just like,
You see what I mean? Like, it's really weird. like, I can understand the point of view of like, oh yeah, obviously, in a Christian worldview, witchcraft, all those things, unless they come from God, it is bad. Which obviously these things depicted are not necessarily from God, so it's considered to be bad. But it's such a diverse subgroup that it's really weird.
Our culture has believed in something we have not physically seen for a long time.
Yes.
I mean, the lifespan of Jesus, people got to see the Messiah, but like majority of the human lifespan, we have believed in something we have not physically seen.
And we live in a very I'm trying to figure out the right word. Desensitized culture nowadays, where hell, even the 1500s was a more let's say enchanted universe where it was, you did believe a lot more of the supernatural, angels, demons, God. Like that was a lot more part of their life.
That was also a lack of understanding and education.
Yes, but we've grown as a culture to be more, God, what's the word? Not sacred, but the other opposite.
Philosophical.
No. Another S word. Not sacred, but it's like
scientific.
No, we'll go scientific. It's like the not sacred, not religious type of stuff.
I just keep thinking back to our core classes when they would like. We went to a Christian university. Everyone has to take core classes, and one of the lectures they bring up how people did believe in these demons and things like that, and how based off of what they saw from Earth, which is understandable, because they are perceiving from what they can understand, and anything else they don't understand, they are putting it in terms of what they can best conclude to it. And this is in form of like, you are here on Earth, you see moon, and everything revolves around Earth.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember that core lecture.
Oh, I've heard it in many lectures.
Yes.
There was a lot, like, the more you look at human history, the more you realize how much Christianity has impacted the progression of people on Earth. And it extends to health. Music history is heavily influenced by the church. Sciences were influenced by the church.
I'm excited though for science. I know you and you, Megan, but like I'm excited for sciences in the church because we're now kind of reaching a new era where we can back scientific evidence to similar contexts of things in the Bible and create more of a background understanding of like it wasn't just God came in, touched a few magical things, and then people appeared. It's more of like God came, maybe he did like some science experiment, that's kind of how I think about it, and then that's the best way how I can understand it at the moment. But, it's like God came to Earth. He did a science experiment, and people started evolving over the years, like things like that.
Well, see, like my brain goes to like how time was perceived.
Yes.
Because over the course of time, obviously things have changed, and
that's another thing that pisses me off because they're like the Book of Revelation, 2,000 years, and it's like, okay, but also a day is a year. A day could be 10,000 years.
Yeah.
Time in the Bible is not specific.
Our time is not specific. If you look at it, our time is not specific. We have leap years.
Yeah.
And like the algorithm for like leap years and century years, it gets complicated.
Yes.
But anyways, reversing back to our lovely TV show, I think.
Sorry, we'd probably go on topic about random things like this.
This is why we wanted a podcast. But I guess this is kind of related to what we've been talking about. we do live in a very Christocentric world. Um, and the topic of witchcraft has been getting a lot more addressed nowadays.
Oh, yeah, especially with the stones.
Well, not
But, like, you know,
crystals.
yeah.
Well, it gets weird because people have evolved to call anything it's not um, oriented with Jesus or God as anything that's not that is immediately witchcraft. Any other religion is witchcraft. And obviously the classic modern day witchcraft of like crystals, herbs, things like that is obviously considered for witchcraft.
You know, we look into Native American culture and we have smudging of sage,
Mm-hmm.
and we have calls and the spirits, your ancestors, and things like that. And that's a whole other thing that people perceived.
Well, and like it gets frustrating because like it's again we're talking about like witch hunts and things like the show that portrays. That's a huge part of American culture. That goes back to
Because we had people burned and
mm-hmm.
dipped in water.
All the different things of like what we consider, like what was considered like witchcraft. Like, okay, let's take the talking to your ancestors. How often do you see someone praying to their loved ones that have passed? But in different contexts, it's all of a sudden witchcraft. Someone once described to me that daytime medicine is nighttime magic, and it took me a while to think about that until I worked in the hospital, and I really started to realize, yeah, medicine didn't always exist. In the past, it was things like herbs and berries and things like that. That was the medicine.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, this stuff is what has led to modern medicine. It progresses that way, just like the rest of human culture. But it bugs me that all of a sudden those things are no witchcraft, even though that was preliminary medicine. Like, go back. Go back to the 1200s and tell me you can find me an ibuprofen.
I'm so confused. What is ibuprofen? Oh, it's medicine. Here, go like some water.
But like like hell, honey has a lot of medicinal purpose. We literally have a product called Medi Honey. It's literal honey that we put on wounds.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
Like there's a lot of holistic medicine in it. I'm not sitting here promoting aromatherapy. Yeah, aromatherapy does not fix your infection of COVID.
As I recently, I have taken a lot of medications. The past week, I have been on semaglutide, my normal medicine, antibiotics, still my antidepressants, and metformin. Oh, God, what a week that has been. And I had to take my antibiotic 3 times a day. And I have to take Rybelsus first, and I'm not allowed to eat for 30 minutes. And then I have to take my next set of medications. Oh, my God.
So,
this week has been miserable.
So, before we end, I have never seen this show. Neither have you. Where do we think the show is going to go?
Mima, that guy who had his apple, and they're still going to be in their realm. The descendants are going to make their way to the tree when Mima does something, and they're going to be like, oh, holy moly, the tree. And oh, hey, the light came back on. Sorry. And then the friend, Ariel. Sorry, not he's Little Mermaid to me. Ariel is going to see that Mima has activated this tree at some point, and it's just gonna be like, oh, holy snap, it's real. And
I think they're going to come back. Those 3 witches that turned into the tree. I think the tree's going to go away, and those witches are going to be back.
either that or they're gonna go back into time. Yeah.
Well, I think like if Mima is this lost bloodline, like the heart bloodline,
Yeah.
and I think those 3 witches are going to basically turn into teachers for her. And then also,
I was like either that
and then with all the prejudice, I think it's going to be a lot of like rising up against those prejudices against the descendants and things, and actually bringing people out of the penumbra, and not just trying to science their way through everything, because some things don't require science. It's just that's the way of life.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, well, we'll keep learning about this show. And if you know anything about the show, please tell us. Like,
Help us in with our pieces we're trying to put together based off of one episode.
it's we are really intrigued by this show. It's just we have a lot to learn. We don't have a lot to go off of.
Yeah.
Or we're working off American knowledge, not the real language.
I was like, now I gotta go home and read my fantasy novel. Well, not it's a series. I'm on book 8. Oh, and they just released the final book is going to be coming out in a few months of the series.
Well, then let's let you go get to reading.
I'm so excited.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Don't do shrooms. Don't praise the goddess of shrooms. Just don't do it.
Don't do any other illicit drugs that we've mentioned either.